Hey guys, this is Mikro back with another video. This is a Greatsword Hatchet medium guide. This build has been popularized for a few months at this point. I think in NA it's caught a lot more steam than it used to have, and it is, I would argue, the best build at a combination of holding and taking space in the game as of current. It's a pretty easy build to play. Most of the skill from it comes from timings, which is different than other kill squad builds, I would argue. Like a lot of kill squad builds are very mechanically intensive. This build is specifically designed to not get a ton of kills, but it is rather used to control space, and that space allows people in your team to get more value and inherently generates value for your team. As an actual build itself, this build is normally slotted in a kill squad group and is sometimes slotted in a normal group if that group needs help controlling space if they're in a sketchy part of the fort. For example, if you had a group that was trying to get through the back gates and it was a normal group with two bruisers, some people would put an IGVG and a Greatsword Hatchet instead of a BB through the back gate, because the Greatsword could help breach, and it could hold the space better in this area versus BB would struggle to take the space but would be better at holding the space. So getting into Greatsword and what you should be going for when you're playing this. This is the standard build that everyone uses in terms of trees for the Greatsword. The key differences between this and a light tree is you don't go for Steadfast Strike. The reason why people ignore Steadfast Strike is because Roaring Rupture gives you a status called Uninterruptible, which is both grit and, to a degree, stun immunity. It is, you have to be wary about it because it can be stripped from Void Gauntlets at times, but what you typically do with this build is you will find an area that you are trying to control space from, you will Roaring Rupture, you'll dodge so you get the Empower, you'll uppercut, and then you'll go for your root and you'll basically keep attacking people. But you're basically just trying to control one spot in the map. The key combos with this build is when you're in onslaught stance, you want to be going for a light, heavy, and then light. So like this, light, heavy, light. This is your standard damage combo, and then your more greedy one is where you go for a heavy, heavy, light. The reason why I go for light, heavy, and then light is because that is the best tracking of any of those combos in the game. Your highest DPS is doing triple heavy, but it's very unlikely to hit all your heavies at the same time. And one thing that I typically do with this build is for most of my abilities, I'll do a light attack into an ability in my build. The reason why I do that is because it will track people through using their stam pretty well, and it allows you to get better finishes. For example, healers like to kite right away when they see a Greatsword Hatchet, but if I go for a light attack into an uppercut into a slash, they will usually get caught by that and not be able to dodge the actual slash at the end, which will then set me up to hit them with a root into a heavy attack, and that kills most healers in the game. Another thing that is noteworthy is you don't really want to go for a heavy attack versus a healer that has repost super often, because if the healer uses repost at the last second, it can be hard to actually dodge that repost and then you get stuck. One of the big advantages of this build compared to normal builds is having the hatchet, which through animation cancels. So if you're stunned, if you do a if you do a, what do you call it, a berserk into an auto, or I think it's an auto into berserk. No, you do berserk into dodge when you're stunned, and then from that you'll be able to get out of any CC basically immediately. That's super useful and can save you a lot. But it's more or less, for that one, it's kind of a button mash sort of combo, but it just always works. You can just break out of CC right away. There's not a lot of timing to it. The one that's really hard to do that I probably will fail on demonstrating here, but I'll demonstrate slowly what you do, is you do a dodge into a light attack into a berserk into a dodge, and if you do that quickly, it will cancel the berserk animation and it will give you the speed boost without actually having to wait for that long berserk animation. So that will help you stay alive a lot of times. And I have some clips I could even bring up of that of pulling that off where it's kept me alive. That's probably the most useful thing and the hardest thing to master on this entire tree. But if you can get it down, it's very strong. So, yeah, I've got a clip of this that I'll bring it up in a second here. So here I'm out here just taunting people, having fun, whatever. And then I get hit on the ground. I try to do this hatchet animation cancel to get out of it immediately. I don't have the cooldown. I use the relentless rush to break stuff, and this is where I go for the hatchet thing, where you don't really see it super fast. But if you look right here, so normally you'd have that giant berserk animation, right? But if you do the hatchet animation cancel, this is how fast it is. Like you can't even see it happen because it's literally that fast, and I don't have that berserk animation, and then I get my haste, I get my health. Because I do that dodge into light attack into berserk into dodge. So that's what you were trying to look to do a little bit more. That's used to create space, and it's one of the reasons why in this build, if you're looking for an optimal set, you look for Resil, then you look for Shirking 4, except you want one Relentless Rush piece, or sorry, Relentless Freedom piece, which will allow you to get out of any CC, which is what you saw me do in that clip to escape the initial CC. And then after that, I would argue you go for aversion. This would differ from what people in EU would tell you, where EU people would tell you to go for freedom. The reason why I think aversion is better is because with the hatchet, if you have berserk, you can inherently get out of any stun in the game, which is why when I put out a video and got #1 damage blocked with sword and shield, I ran a hatchet because I only had one freedom on that account, and the hatchet allowed me to compensate for that due to those animation cancels of you being able to pop a Zerk into a dodge like right off the bat when you get CC'd. And I'll link a detailed guide to all those animation cancels in the description. It is the hardest part about Hatchet to master, and this is the part that I talk about in a lot of videos where I say this: if you're good at this, you will be. This makes the Hatchet a whole entire tier better than it is typically. The other thing that Hatchet provides is social distance, allows you to back up and reposition quickly. If a target has a debuff on them, that will give you haste. I run a Hatchet with keen speed and refreshing social distance throw, so if I'm really close to enemies, I will have like a 6-second cooldown on that, which is super fast. There's another spec where sometimes people run this with the Hatchet, which I'll get into the tree here, where this is the kind of more, I'd say, mage-like hatchet tree. There is a aspect that some people sometimes go for where they'll drop the infected throw, and then they'll go for fail or rush, and they'll play more for that damage heavy focus, which is something I've seen more players that are SNS move to. The reason why I don't go for this is because I think Infected Throw has inherently a lot of value that people don't realize. And then the other reason why I don't go for it is because I have a hatchet that is made for util, not for damage. But if you're looking to do more damage with the hatchet, I think going into Feral Rush is a fair play. And this will allow you to really put the pressure on healers and secure those kills a little bit better than Infected Throw. Infected Throw is a little bit better at controlling space and it's a little bit better at doing about getting value into clumps because this disease will last for a very long period of time and it will linger on the ground for 6 seconds as well. So it's a thing that can easily turn clump fights, which is why I like to run it, but I think that there is an argument to not run it if you are playing more in the back gates and in small skirmishes. So in EU, I've seen more people move away from it, but in NA, I would still recommend running Infected Throw because the clumps are very, very heavy. Unless you are paired with like a kill squad flank build and you're not in many clump fights. So going into attribute list, you're looking for an even split between strength and dex. I don't have this character maxed out yet. This should be able to get to 157 and 157 on strength and dex. Your con, you just run 200. The main thresholds you're looking to hit is this 150 dex. So you get that extra stam, and then if you get to 200 con, you get the extra armor, which is really good. You won't be able to get to the 200 strength perk, which is sad, but you already have so much value. And with that 150 dex allows you to do in medium is to quadruple dodge, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, I have 4 dodges to get out of anything I want to, and that's why Greatsword is partially so oppressive, because this build's really able to hold space. And the base concept here is you go aggro with your onslaught stance, and because you're a medium, you could take a little bit more damage, but when people start to hit you, you just swap the hatchet, and then you're not going to have any of those problems that you had before. Or you put your sword in the ground, and you become heavily resistant to all attacks, and that is through Roaring Rupture. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to weaken people that are on top of you, cleanse debuffs, which can get rid of roots, which is noteworthy, and it can get rid of disease effects, and it will also give you lots of Fortify. So this will give you 24% fortify and put you in defiant stance, which is an extra 15% fortify. And it is noteworthy that this fortify can go above the standard fortify cap, meaning you can have effective 65% fortify if you are set up right with the gems. My gem setup I wouldn't say is the best for this right now. If I were to do this for this current meta, I would swap the elemental to just be flat fire resistance. But because I have these in pieces of jewelry that I can't easily switch, actually I can switch this, but I can't switch the ring, then I haven't done that right now. On your ring, you're just looking for slash damage and invigorated punishment, pretty standard. On your amulet, you're looking for stam, health, and slash ward. I think there is an argument to have a thrust ward with current meta with how many bows there are, but one of those two and you'll be pretty happy. I have a budget one with Chirking Debilitating Cleanse, which just lets me get rid of rends. On your earring, Doom's Chance is just always good, and then the other piece that you can kind of save on is regular pants. On your actual Greatsword itself, you are looking for attunement Trenchant Strikes. Your third perk doesn't matter as much. I would argue that Slowing Rupture is the best one that you can get, and it's often a slept on perk. What this allows you to do is when you start your combo and you put your sword into the ground, you could slow all these people so healers can't run away from you, and then you could chase them more easily and hit your other attacks. But there is an argument to do another damage perk on that. Like you could do Keenly Jagged, and I would be pretty happy with that. You could do Keen Speed if you wanted to catch up to people more. There's flexibility there, but you're really looking for Trenchant Strikes and Attunement on your Greatsword. And yeah, that's the main things with this build. If you're looking to get value in a war setting and you don't know where to slot this is a really good build for holding space. It's a decent backline peel build. It's also a really good build to put on the flanks to try to contest the side area, because this build could actually go into enemy space if you start getting pressure, as well as just hold the space, unlike a BB, where most BBs are able to hold space well, but once they start trying to take space, they get easily pressured out and often die versus a Greatsword Hatchet could very easily get out due to the Hatchet's ability to disengage. So yeah, that's what the main things are. Run Detonate with this build for sure. I would recommend running Oak Flesh because most of the damage that you'll be taking in the current meta is physical, with Fire Ward on gear. And you want to stack as much physical as you basically can otherwise, because you are made to be a soft counter to bows and muskets. You're looking to kind of tank the damage that they do to you and get healed from it, and the effective healing on you will be really good. Another thing that I would say, don't be afraid to go into Defiant stance and then just run around at this and do basic light attacks. This allows you to have that extra 15% damage absorption, and you keep a decent amount of damage. It's a really good thing to use when you're taking pressure. Be really careful when you go into Onslaught. The main reason why you're running this in medium and not in light is because when you go into Onslaught and light, you just can get one tap from things, versus medium, it's still like a 3 to 4 tap. But once you get pressure when you're on Onslaught, unless you are winning the value when you're trading, so if you're taking a 3v1 and one guy's hitting you and you're the three people, it's probably fine to stay in Onslaught. But if you are in the opposite situation, you're taking a 1v3, you don't really want to be in Onslaught and you want to look to live. It's very much so a build that is meant to count how many people the enemy team has and play off of it. So if they have 3 people, I am looking to not go in. If they have one person that's looking at me, then I might go in. If they have no one looking at me, I'm definitely going in. That's the base mindset with this build. Very solid build still. I think it's fallen off a little bit compared to some of the other builds. It's not slotted as much anymore, but it's still up there at either the best or the second best kill squad build at the moment. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.